Horlicks Network 18, Mission Poshan, Bhavishya Roshan.
Now, the Niti Aayog has pulled up the Department of Investment in Public Asset Management for slow implementation of the strategic sale program. Timsi Jaipuria had filed this report earlier.
Well, what government officials are indicating so far is the fact that Niti Aayog took a stock-taking meeting with DPAM last week where they took stock of strategic stake sale program, and yes, they also pitched for an aggressive stake sale of Suti stake, especially in L&T, ITC and Axis Bank. Now, the Suti stake in these three accounts to about 46,000 odd crore rupees, and Niti Aayog has pulled up DPAM that they should go for this Suti stake sale as soon as possible. Not just this, when it comes to strategic stake sale, Niti Aayog is unhappy with the performance of DPAM. They've asked DPAM to go ahead on the strategic stake sale as soon as possible. There are about 24 companies which have been now put up on a fresh list to DPAM by Niti Aayog, which also includes some majors like NTC, BHEL, then Hindustan Copper, etc., which should be put out for strategic stake sale as soon as possible. But yes, as of now, Niti Aayog has pulled up DPAM for a poor performance when it comes to strategic stake sale program and yes, selling of Suti stake. Let's see how soon DPAM acts on these two parameters.
All right, then the Air India divestment has failed to even take off. According to the Aviation Ministry, there has not been a single expression of interest or EOI for the debt-ridden carrier. Ashpreet Sethi joins us for more on that. Ashpreet.
It does look like a rerun of what happened 17 years ago. Remember, the Vajpayee government was also looking at selling Air India with no takers absolutely. This time again in 2018, there are absolutely no takers for the Maharaja. Now, remember, this is just the first stage as far as expression of interest formally that had to be submitted by interested buyers to EY, that is the transaction advisors concerned. However, there have been no takers. Now, what are the three contentious points here? First, the debt of about 33,000 odd crores that the new entity will have to take, 11,000 odd employees that the new entity will have to take, and the third most important being that the government will be retaining 24% stake. Now, the aviation secretary on record is saying they are unhappy with getting absolutely no response. They were expecting a better response as far as the market is concerned. However, he does agree that certain tweaking will be required of the terms of divestment for Air India, because remember, Narendra Modi government has been pitching it as one of the high sales stakes which will add to the divestment target. Now, we'll have to wait and see what happens next, because remember, the whole saga will start again. It's back to square one. The alternate mechanism led by Finance Minister will be looking into it again. There will be a new deadline set for Air India divestment. Whether it will be end of 2018 at all or not, that remains as a big question mark, and whether EY will continue as the transaction advisor, that future course of action will also be taken. Now, whether Air India will get done by 2018 at all or not, or whether it will be shifted post-polls, that is also a question that everybody is asking.
Well, on that note, let's hear out what Couple Call had to say with regard to this particular failed divestment.
I am of the view that if the expression of interest, which frankly doesn't mean that you'll have to put money on the table, if there are no backers for the expression of interest, that is really surprising, because for a country and for a market which is growing significantly, obviously in every transaction there are risks, and people have spent money in crunching numbers and looking at what it will cost to do this transaction. So frankly, it's a reinforcement of the fact that there is not much confidence in the government's ability to maintain a hands-off approach, whether it is this government or any other government.
Well, we're considering a proposal by SBI and REC on the resolution of stressed power assets. That's the word that's coming in from Mr. R.K. Singh. Now, in an exclusive conversation with CNBC TV18's Anshu Sharma, the minister said that the new scheme that's called Samadhan focuses on turning around assets instead of selling them at lower prices. The minister also talked about the coal shortage concerns and said that he was in touch with both the coal as well as the rail ministries on this particular issue. Let's hear him out.
In fact, every day this planning happens. My officers and the officers of the ministries of coal and railways, they talk every day. And in May, the average number of rakes which have been coming have been 274. Okay. Which is up from what it was earlier. Right now, our stocks are about 14.7 million tons. It is touch and go, but you know the demand has increased exponentially. The peak demand in May went up to 171 gigawatts. 171,000 megawatts. And this was at a time when wind was low. Now wind is picking up. And this was at a time, you know, when hydro was also low. So the entire load came on coal. But I mean, we are, my officers and the officers of the Coal Ministry and Ministry of Railways, they are trying to make sure that the coal reaches all those plants where the coal is required.
You've been very vocal on the RBI circular which came in February this year. You said that it was impractical and not workable. You also hinted that one-day delay in payment will lead to large number of assets to become non-performing assets. You pitched a year's time for resolution for such NPA assets in the power sector. Where does it stand right now? How much is the capacity in the power sector under NPA right now?
You know, insofar as the capacity which is stressed is concerned and how to deal with it, we have had certain rounds of discussion. And we believe that we have a scheme. The State Bank of India has come out with a scheme called Samadhan for taking care of these assets. The REC has come out with a scheme. So we have had discussions on that. After those discussions, the REC have refined that scheme and they have sent it to us. So we will have a look at it and then we'll send it across to the Ministry of Finance. I have mentioned it to the Finance Minister. Now what this will do is that this will ensure that the stressed assets are turned around in a more benign way, and the stress assets will not be sold at value which is much less than what they should be getting.
Well, let's focus on some stocks that are going to be really in the news today. Moving on to the auto space, the May auto sales, they are due today, and it's expected to be another month of healthy growth. That's across the segments, in fact. Sonia is with us to run us through the key expectations. Hey, Sonia, good morning.
Hi, Nigel. Good morning. Yes, it's expected to be a good month for the auto sector. You know, because of rural traction and anticipation of a good monsoon, there is expectation that tractors, two-wheelers, etc. will do quite well. And, you know, overall as well, if you look at the passenger vehicle space, a double-digit growth is what the street is expecting. Medium and heavy commercial vehicles will sustain the robust growth they saw in the last month because of the low base as well. Remember, same time last year, demonetization had hit the auto sector. Now there's an expectation that the growth will look pretty good. Till the month of May, till mid-May actually, the marriage season was was leading to a lot of improved sales across sectors. Post-May, actually, retail offtake has come off a tad bit, according to dealers. But let's see, perhaps the month of June might, see some amount of low offtake. But the month of May, the numbers will be quite good. If you look at individual stocks for Maruti, it's an 18% growth that Nomura has forecasted. They have a high waiting period because of their new launches, so they will continue to outperform there. M&M, as we know, has been hitting new highs because of very strong auto and tractor sector growth. This time, the rural recovery will make sure that tractors grow 20%, auto sales are up 20%, primarily because CV demand has been very good for M&M. Tata Motors as well, medium and heavy commercial vehicles has been quite strong. 43% growth is what the street is expecting there. The Tata Nexon has done very well, so passenger vehicles will do well for Tata Motors this month as well. ASHOK LEYLAND, remember last month there was a bit of weakness for ASHOK LEYLAND, but this month on a year-on-year basis things will recover once again. A 50% growth is what we're expecting for ASHOK LEYLAND. And for the two-wheeler makers as well, BAJAJ Auto's numbers could surprise on the upside. Last month was a record month for them in terms of three-wheelers and export sales. This time around they could continue that traction. So all in all, expected to be a good month for the sector.
Okay, Sonia, thank you so much for that. But it is time now for a quick break. Up next, CNBC TV18 is the only Indian TV channel. Well, June 4th is the target action date for Biocon applications for biosimilar pegfilgrastim. The US FDA will give their view on Biocon's application for the biosimilar on that day. Ekta joins us with more details on that. Ekta, good morning. Over to you.
Well, important date, Anisha, coming up on Monday for Biocon as well as LEYLAND with regards to the application for the biosimilar pegfilgrastim. Now, what exactly is going to happen on Monday is that by Monday itself, we're going to get an idea in terms of what the US FDA thinks with regards to this particular application. It is the second application by Biocon with regards to the biosimilar space. Now, pegfilgrastim itself is an important molecule. Its market size is around $3.9 billion in the US. It is used for cancer or in terms of chemotherapy, and hence in terms of an annualized opportunity for Biocon, it is quite significant. It could go up to around $70 million in terms of an opportunity. That is if in case there is a best case scenario and limited competition in the drug. Now, one important thing to watch out for is that the company had received a few observations on their Bangalore facility in a pre-approval inspection which had taken place just a couple of months ago and or earlier in the year. So the US FDA is probably going to look for that to be solved, or needs to be satisfied with that particular aspect as well. So it'll be important to track that particular thing. And then the other important aspect is that there is a litigation ongoing with regards to 2 process patents, and that has to be solved as well. So if the US FDA gives its go ahead to this particular application, then still there is a process patent litigation which Biocon might have to get through in order to probably launch pegfilgrastim successfully and on time in the US. So overall, important date on June 4th for Biocon. If in case all goes well for this and it is a go ahead by the US FDA, then it will be the second biosimilar that Biocon has received an approval for just in the past couple of months.
All right, thanks so much for that, Ekta. Well, moving on then, 2018 Walmart shareholders meeting is taking place in Arkansas, and CNBC TV18 is the only Indian channel present at this mega event. After months of talks, American retail giant Walmart acquired 77% stake in Indian e-commerce firm, that's Flipkart, for around 16 billion USD, as it made its entry into India's exploding e-commerce market. Shireen Ban reports on what's on the agenda and the India representation on the back of the mega deal with Flipkart.
This is Walmart country. The company is not called the Beast of Bentonville without reason. This is Bentonville. Here is where Sam Walton made it all happen. Right behind us is the Walmart Museum, which gives you a slice of the company's history. Now, this is a special time for Walmart. Annually, they host their annual shareholders meeting where shareholders from across the country come to understand what this future strategy looks like, what the company has in store in terms of growth and expansion. This time, there are special visitors from India. Binny Bansal is here from Flipkart, and Krish Iyer, who heads Walmart India, is here as well. There will perhaps be some conversation about the Flipkart transaction, which is Walmart's attempt at amplifying its presence in India and also expanding its presence across e-commerce. Now, e-commerce traditionally for Walmart, even globally, has been a bit of a laggard. They've been slow off the block, but they're hoping with the acquisition of Flipkart as well as global acquisitions that they've done, for instance of Jet, they will be able to amp up their presence in the e-commerce market. Very excited about India and the India opportunity. Believe that the Indian market on the e-commerce side is hugely underpenetrated, and they hope that eventually they will be able to exercise and leverage the synergies between Flipkart and Walmart and bring what Walmart has to offer to Flipkart's customers and take Flipkart sellers onto Walmart's global platform. 2 specific areas of interest could perhaps be apparel and accessories. Remember, India continues to be one of Walmart's fastest global sourcing hubs, and they hope that this will only improve post this transaction going through. There is some degree of nervousness, though, on the transaction itself, because there is political resistance. There is resistance from the Retailers Association in India. So regulatory approvals are crucial, and that is still awaited. But I managed to catch up with the CEO of International Operations, Judith McKenna, who says that they're long-time committed investors to India, and they hope only give them a better grip on India and help take Indian products and Indian merchandise to the world.
Okay, Shireen, thank you so much for that. And as she mentioned, Judith McKenna, the president and CEO of the company, stressed that they remain excited with the business potential that Flipkart offers and that they will always maintain a majority stake in it.
We really like the model for that business in particular, where there are minority shareholders within that. We think that not only does that help bring a healthy diversity of views around the table, but it also helps the business succeed in the long term. They've had a very diverse board previously, and we're really excited that people like Tencent and Tiger and Microsoft are going to remain as part of the mix. In terms of being shareholders. So we're very happy at that level of shareholding, and what we said actually is we'd be happy to look in the future at the right time if there were some other strategic investors that we might like to see or financial investors come into it. We're in no rush for that, and we would always maintain a majority stake in it. Comprised of 4 key parts. There is clearly the Flipkart business itself. There is the fashion business, Myntra and Jabong, which come together. There is eCart, which is the logistics network, which is operational across 800 different cities. And then there is PhonePe, which is their payments platform, an open-sourced payments platform, which allows the team there not only to facilitate payments within their businesses, but this is also open to Kiranas, to small businesses, and helping to actually open up the digital India transformation that's happening in that country. It's a country we're very excited about. 1.3 billion people there, and still a relatively low e-commerce penetration. What we really like about the way that Flipkart has approached this is they've approached it not just for their business, but actually for a broader series of businesses, and actually linking it into the Indian banking system as well. So how can they help transform that business? There is some other ones, which are some data laws in India, which means that data has to be held in India for payments platforms and for anything else as well. So that's an advantage that they've got. But they're a thoughtful business about how they grow and how they create connectivity. And we expect to see them introducing not just payment, but other financial services around that platform as well in the future.
Well, time to slip into another short break. You come back, we'll tell you all the cues and news that are stacked up for us. Well, let's shift focus to the commodity space, and Manisha Gupta joins in early this morning to run us through what's going on there. Hey, Manisha, good morning.
Thank you for that, Nigel. Well, starting with the crude oil prices yet again, and the positive factor for this really has been the U.S. inventories, which declined by 4.2 million barrels. That is a positive. But, more and more investors and markets now are getting influx, really flustered with the fact that you have seen the Brent and the WTI gap widen to an $11 now, which is the highest since 2015. And the important trend that is emerging is that money managers and hedge funds are now going long on the U.S. crude and short on Brent. So you really need to see on whether or not there's a convergence happening there. And even important point is that there is disparity between the U.S. crude itself. So when you look at the U.S. physical crude oil prices, they are at a discount of yet another $10 to the U.S. futures as well. So that means that the U.S. physical crude is at a discount of nearly $22 to the Brent prices. So there is a lot of disparity in various crude oil varieties in the global markets. So, of course, the buyers are spoiled for a choice here, but it is a very volatile market. As we continue to watch out for the OPEC output, which is the lowest in 13 months, and you have seen the U.S. output, which continues to be at record highs. So plenty of cues to take from when it comes to this sector.
Okay, Manisha, thank you so much for that. But let's move on and hop across to Mangalam, who's joining to tell us how the cues are stacked from the F&O space. Mangalam, good morning. Me and Nigel were discussing that sell in May go away did not work for May series. How are the cues lined up for June series now?
Well, for June, it's a fresh new page, because if you take a look at the last 3 Junes, it's been either go big or go home. In June 2016, the Nifty went big with a gain of about 3.1%. Last June, somehow, everyone went home. The good point, they did not go home with a lot of losses. So in this early pitch conditions, we talk about cricket every time, you just wait by, and that is exactly what the positioning indicates, because over the last 2 series, we've gained almost 600 plus points. We're starting at 10,736 for the June series. The rollovers, they've been a tad bit lower than what we've seen over the last 3 series. The average has been around 68%. We saw rollovers being around 63%. They're starting light, 1.89 crore shares in terms of open interest, and that compares to around 2 crores that we've seen in the last 3 series. So perhaps people are waiting and watching which way June turns. The markers on this fresh page, they've been placed at 10,600 put as well as the 11,000 calls. So that 400-point range is something that the street is keeping an eye out on. Remember, the 10,700 straddle has a cumulative premium of close to 270 points. The FII long exposure, third time this year, has been sub 50%. So third time this year, the FIIs enter a series with net short position. So 44% long exposure. Finally, we have a lot of cues to work with, most of them coming in the next 2 weeks. The FOMC meet, the RBI policy, and definitely we'll keep an eye on the sky. We will be watching out for the rains.
All right, Mangalam, thanks so much for that. Well, on that note, we'll wrap up on Power Breakfast. You stay with us. Bazaar Morning Call comes up next.